Welcome everyone, my name is Ryan and we are back with our Cataclysm tutorial series. This is episode number 2 and we're jumping back with our character Antoine Rock. That's right, solid name for a pretty solid character. Hopefully we can keep him alive too. And hopefully you guys will also learn something, kind of just figure out this game. The basics is what we're shooting for with this series. There is of course episode 1 where we went through world generation, character creation, and then essentially spawned into the world here in this little evac shelter. We're just south of the town of Lisbon. We've barely set foot outside. We just spent the first episode looting, a bunch of protein bars and things of that. So take a look at our inventory. We're set up pretty good with some water and food. We definitely need to get a better hiking backpack or some sort of upgrade to our, backpack itself. We got a few bandages, which is great, but we kind of neglected the sidebar in the first episode, and that was intentional. Try not to throw too much information at you guys at once because there is such a learning curve to this game. It can be overwhelming at first, and you're definitely going to die a lot, but this information over here is going to be crucial to our survival, especially as we step outside and start to explore the world. So before we get into the action, let's just talk about the sidebar real quick. Alright, and by hitting escape, we open up our main menu and we will see the sidebar options. We're just going to take a look at this real quick. I won't actually be changing anything on my layout just because I do like the way this is by default, but there's a couple of options I should make you aware of. So essentially what we're seeing on this window is the layout itself. You can see limbs at the top here, then below that movement. This one is grayed out, meaning it's hidden. We could essentially ask it to display that by hitting tab, and then you can see it puts that in there. I'm going to leave it hidden, and we can actually move things around too. So if I hit enter and grab the movement, and then we can shift it. Now over here on this side, these are different layouts essentially that are saved. Oops, there we go. So for instance, here's one for the mobile phone. That's right, you can download Cataclysm and play it on your phone. I've never tried it myself, but there are folks who do. And like I said, these will essentially just change the overall layout. Give them a try if you're interested. One thing to note too is the sidebar is essentially the ASCII representation of things. Even if you go in and change your tile set, this is going to remain the same over here. So try and get used to it. It is actually a very efficient way of showing you, just a quick heads up display. We did kind of touch on the body parts in the first episode. So essentially with the 5 green vertical bars, that means we're in perfect condition. And the same holds true if we look at, for instance, our stamina. As we perform more and more, exerting activities like sprinting or fighting and things, our stamina bars will deplete, and we can actually see this first one is starting to bend a little bit. So we're not quite perfect stamina. Same with transition. We'll discuss what this means here shortly, but let's take a look at stamina a little bit more in order to further illustrate the change in these bars up here. We're going to come to this door, and it is locked. There's a little key above it, and if I try and move into it, you can see that my text is telling me the door is locked, but we can smash it open. It takes a bit of time to do it, but it should be possible. Also, I'm realizing I don't think I have my sounds turned on. I might not have the right mod pack installed. Yeah, let's see, sound enabled true. I want CC sounds. I might have to restart the game for that to take effect, but not to worry. It's just the sound effects. But if we bash, there we go. You can see it's telling me we shoulder check the door. So let's jump to it, and it's going to take probably a dozen or more bashes. But as we do this, pay attention to the stamina bar specifically. Watch that because it is going to slowly deplete. And you can see even the color will eventually change. Okay, we just slightly broken the door. We got to keep going though. And again, that's going to be the same way it appears. For instance, if your leg gets really severely injured, this is how it's going to start to appear. You will lose those vertical bars. The color will change. There we go. We smashed the door open. Now, stamina is such a critical facet of the game to understand. In this condition, we're pretty tired. Like we're breathing heavily. If we had sound effects, you would probably hear the breathing too. And this is going to affect our combat. Eventually, it could slow us down if we deplete our stamina altogether. We're going to be very, very in a bad position for fighting and a lot of other things. So managing your stamina is so critical. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and rest for the perfect amount of time just to recover stamina. We're going to do that by hitting shift and the vertical bar again. So it's actually the backslash button if you don't hit shift, but that's very important. Let's do that again so you can see it. There it is. It's the vertical bar. It's not the I button. But either way, that's going to ask us if we want to set an alarm or wait a while. That's what we want to do. And then it brings up how long do we want to wait. The very first one is that perfect time frame just to catch our breath. Boom, there we go. If you had paid attention to the seconds, it would have been, 30 seconds, maybe a minute or so. Not a big period, and we are now back to full stamina, which is good. And like I said, whenever you're going off into a position where you might be in danger, make sure your stamina is good. And while you're in combat or kiting around zombies, just really keep an eye on it and maintain it. Now that we've taken a look at one aspect of the sidebar, we're a step closer towards venturing outside, doing some looting and exploring, but there is one more place to search here in the evac shelter, and that's going to be the roof. So we broke that down that door for a good reason. In fact, let me just look. If we search below our position, let's see what we did. Yeah, so we knocked out the door and that left behind some planks, some splintered wood, 10 nails, and a hinge. The planks actually are handy. If we don't have any other weapon, we can just grab one of those. If we look at it in our hand and hit E, then we'll bring up its bash rate is 16. It has a negative to hit, so it's not the best thing. It's a little bit unwieldy, but maybe we can craft up something a little bit better too before we actually step outside. We do have a pocket knife, which is so crucial. I think that's probably a good time to introduce the favoriting idea. So what we're going to do is favorite this item, the pocket knife specifically, and I think I'll favorite this lighter too. That way when I go to drop things in a large amount, like automatically drop everything, it won't drop the favorited stuff. It's a really handy control, and it's done by hitting shift and then the 8 button, bringing up the star command. That will star or highlight or favorite the items that you want. There we go. Smartphone, actually, we should probably favorite that one too. Yeah, definitely, for sure. Now, let's see. I think we can favorite our bandages. It'll be good to keep those with us. And the matchbook, well, we've got lighters now. One thing that I do like to do as well is highlight my bag. You won't actually drop items that you're wearing using that command I just previously mentioned, the full drop, which we'll get to once we've got a bunch of stuff. But doing this just brings it to the top of the list of items worn, and if it starts to get damaged, you can notice it a little better. It's important to remember that your gear can get damaged as you're fighting, and if, for instance, your jeans get torn off, then everything that's in your pockets is going to drop to the ground. So again, very important to keep track of your current gear and its durability and stuff like that. But let's go ahead and illustrate that we can climb with our hands full. See, you may be unable to return back down to the stair. That's weird. I'm not sure why it says that, but yeah, well, we fell down a ledge. You were knocked to the floor. We're in severe pain. What? I wonder why. Something must be damaged above us. Unable to return back to... Wow, that's an interesting outcome I've never seen before. Let's drop the plank because I don't really need it. And now, if we take a look at our health, oh yeah, we're in pretty bad shape. Our left arm is about halfway towards being broken. Wow, so it can show you just the severity of a fall for sure. And let's take a look at the sidebar again now, because some things have changed over here too. Again, we can see that quick representation of our health right up at the top. and it's not good, but we're going to put some band-aids on here in a second. Our mood is actually represented by a little half smiley, so we're kind of neutral right now. If we want to go into more detail, we can hit the Shift+2 button, the @ symbol, and that brings up this window, which is essentially our character sheet. But effects over here, we'll see specifically under C, he's unhappy. He is lit up because I think we got a flashlight on, and we're staggered in our left arm, and we're in pain. Now, if you hit in this menu, the M button, it will further bring up more causes of our morale. It further granulizes, so you can look at it and say, oh, okay, we are essentially craving fire too, so that could help boost our mood. All right, next we can see that these numbers are in red, meaning that our essential attributes have been penalized by the severe pain. I mentioned stamina was so critical. Pain is also one of the biggest factors in your overall physical condition. If you're in bad pain, it really, really hurts your ability to do anything. At this point, I could barely lift anything because we're strength 6. And we can see my speed is penalized too. It's at 78. Normally, it would be 100. That, again, is going to be so crucial for survival, just running away from stuff. So what this means is we might want to go ahead and just rest here in this evac shelter for a day or two in-game, let ourselves heal up. Certainly, we want to get ourselves out of pain before we venture out. So let's hit the Shift+E button to bring up our consume window, and now we have access to our bandages. So I'm just going to select, we'll use all our good bandages first. It's going to automatically choose the worst wound, which has no bandage on it, so that would be the left arm. And now if I do bandage again, it goes to the head. So it's pretty good. You can just basically sit here and hit enter once you've got your bandages selected. We have to use adhesive bandages, which aren't as good. These are like little band-aids, essentially, instead of like a nice gauzy full bandage. But it's better than nothing. And there we go. So I think we're fully bandaged. If we look, yep, all across the board. It's not great. We still have to practice our first aid a bit. But this, by bandaging and also by disinfecting, which we didn't do because we don't have any, will help increase the healing rate. So it's very important, especially like before you go to bed, make sure you've bandaged and possibly disinfected too. So, several hours have passed. It is almost 10 a.m., but we're still in unimaginable pain. Not much has changed with our injuries. Without adequate painkillers, it's going to be tough. We might have to go ahead and sleep for a night, see what we're looking like in the morning, but that's okay because, this injury has helped illustrate a lot of different things here. We learned about not only healing ourselves a little bit, but also to pay attention to these warnings. Whenever the game pops up and says, are you sure you want to continue this action? Read it carefully. I was just literally inexperienced with this type of thing. And again, another great illustration of just how no matter how long you play this game, there will always be new things popping up from time to time to surprise you and potentially end your run. But that's one of the best parts about Cataclysm, is the endless discovery and exploration of the game world, which is what I love. But either way, we've got a few hours to kill. Like I said, we can easily sleep here and maintain ourselves with the protein rations and water we've got. Now, if we were to, blessed with such a nice starting location, it would be much trickier. We might have to go out and look around right off the bat. But again, you can adjust that. Start off with the easier, scenarios when you're a beginner. But if we check out our user interface again, we can see that we are hungry now. So it doesn't mention anything about thirst, which means we're kind of middle, like we're probably getting thirsty, but we're definitely hungry. So let's hold down Shift and hit E to bring our consume window again. We'll scarf down a ration, and you can start to notice the daily calorie intake is listed. Yesterday's too, but of course we haven't played yesterday. Then we've even got vitamin breakdowns, which can affect your overall performance. Don't neglect your calcium, folks. It's pretty easy to get vitamin C because you can forage a lot of fruits throughout the seasons. Obviously not in winter, but iron's going to be okay too if you do some hunting. But, you can also get multivitamins in this game, or even specific supplements like calcium and vitamin C. But let's also have a drink of some water. And again, pay attention to the thirst and hunger indicators up here as we consume a bit more too. So now we're hydrated. Let's have another couple of bars. I'm just going to keep eating until, boom, we get this message. This is probably the most advisable way to eat. You want to fill your character up until they're bursting almost. Now, it says he's engorged. Typically, if you were in perfect condition, you might experience a little bit of pain. It would be very light, but that's just, side consequence of being very full. And of course, we don't want to ignore this message. We would just want to go ahead and say no. So we won't force him to eat past that point. But again, it is good just to get them to that level so that they're nice and full. And he'll certainly want to eat again, probably before bedtime. But now we've got some food to sustain a little bit of activity. And you know what I'm realizing too, based on the light levels, we've got light in this place. Whereas, there's no artificial light and all the drapes are closed. Yeah, there's definitely some damage to this roof. And it didn't strike me right away, but that's why there's light here and why we couldn't climb up to the top. I'm not sure what happened, but it's unfortunate too because these evac shelters are a great source of solar panels. I don't know if it's a guaranteed spawn, but like every time I check one, there's almost always a solar panel on the roof. So that will come into very critical whenever we want to start working on getting a car together. So it's a bit unfortunate, but we're nowhere near that point yet. So let's focus more on the here and now, and we're going to do a little bit of crafting. So we're going to hit shift and the 7 button using the and symbol. This is one you might want to rebind because you will be crafting a lot. But again, just keep in mind there's a lot of buttons which are unbound, which you'll want to rebind. So use that sparingly. But either way, let's go ahead and we're going to hit tab to go over to the different windows. As we go through them, we can see our options here. I don't want to worry about the weapon just yet. We'll probably make that club. Okay, this is interesting. This is our armor section. Armor section really includes all clothing. You can see everything from book straps to blindfolds and blankets is in here. And at the top, we do see some optional stuff that we can actually make because it's in white. We could do a t-shirt, and if we look closely, it shows us the ingredients that we'll be using, the tools required. It even shows us the tailoring level, which is 0, so this is a very basic recipe, and then it shows us our levels. So this will increase a bit, and it'll take 2 minutes to do it. Let's look at actually this sling. So don't be confused, this isn't actually a weapon. What this is a large sheet tied to a crude over-the-shoulder sling. It's essentially a backpack, a very crude backpack that you can put things into. And being that we don't really have a lot of backpack space, it might be good to make one of these. Now, it shows no primary skill, so that's actually interesting. It's only 48 seconds. I don't think it will improve our tailoring since it doesn't show it. So let's just look at our current tailoring. And 0 was 0% towards the next rank, so the first rank. Let's just make that item and see what happens. I don't think it will because it doesn't show it, but all right, so there's the sling next to me now. It's laying on there. Instead of picking it up, we can use a separate command, the wear command, to wear an item. So I'm going to hit shift and W, and it brings up the wear item. This will count towards anything in your inventory, in your pockets, and also the surrounding tiles. So we've got the sling next to us. That's actually indicated by this 0. That's one way you can tell if it's in your inventory or on the ground, but that's just a side note. Let's go ahead and wear the item. And if we look at our inventory over on the right-hand side now, we will see the makeshift sling is right there. And I am going to go ahead and favorite it again. I like to have my bags favorited at the top of that list. Okay. Now, let's go back to the crafting menu and take a look. Oh, I should mention, too, while I was killing a little bit of time earlier, I turned on the smartphone, I turned off the flashlight, and then I activated some music. So you can see there's little musical notes right there representing. That helps the mood a bit. If we go back to our character screen, and we hit the C button, or I'm sorry, the M button to open up the morale window from that screen, now you can see we are listening to music. Also take note that we didn't enjoy that protein ration. That's not something we liked very much. And we're craving fire. Now let's take a look. We do have a lighter. Maybe we should peek outside real quick and just set a bush on fire or something like that. Actually, let's see what we've got. There's a couple of splintered woods right here. All right, we're going to step outside. You know what? Actually, we're not going to go in that direction. Yeah, there's like a police blockade. We don't want to worry about that yet. Let's go out the back door. And just here in this little field, not close to any other bushes or trees, because I don't really want to start a forest fire here, which is possible. I'm going to drop the splintered wood. All right, and I'm going to hit the A button. Instead of accessing the inventory, I'm going to hit A, and that is the use item. It will bring up a selection of items from your inventory, but it's just the ones that can be activated, such as a lighter. So we'll select that, indicate where I want to light. That's going to be this square here, so I'm going to hit the corresponding arrow button on the number pad. There we go, and we've got a little bitty fire. Be careful with fire, folks. You know, it can get out of control. Ideally, if we were camping or more well off, we would set up a little brazier, so this fire, we could dump a bunch of wood, wouldn't have to worry about it spreading or getting out of control. But this small fire is good enough to just satisfy that need. See, now we lit a fire and we spent time close to a fire in green, so slight bonuses. And at this point you may be asking, what's the reason? Why am I worried about my character's morale? Because they will start to refuse to do certain things if the morale gets too low. You know, so you don't want to let it drop too much. There are certain things that are just going to be unavoidable towards lowering your morale, such as killing younglings or zombie children. That will definitely have a big impact in a negative sense on our morale. So, like I say, you need to keep it up as much as you can with little things like music and lighting fires if you're a pyro. But with that said, let's continue our crafting. Now that we've kind of balanced his mood a little bit, I'm going to come back to the light. And also there's a few other materials around us. We got a wood plank, some nails. It's not a lot of stuff, granted, but this is like everything in the world that we have to craft with. So we do want to be in range of it. It doesn't have to be in our inventory again if we're crafting, but we do want to be near it. I don't know exactly, a couple tiles away will do. You'll know when you open up your crafting, if you see things like, the large wooden club, it's going to use that plank. We have 8 of them near us, and we do need our knife, which we have. So this will take 5 minutes. It's actually going to help to boost our fabrication a bit, I believe. So let's do that. Large wooden club, boom. And it was quick. That's good news. If we check our inventory now, we should, actually it might be on the ground. Let's look below. Oh yeah, that's right. When you're standing next to like a surface or tabletop, it will automatically drop the items typically onto that surface. You will get a little bonus too in terms of that. Let's open up our crafting again real quick and just take a look. Okay, it doesn't show a bonus up here. It will show certain penalties though. For instance, if you're wearing like really restrictive gloves, that can hamper your crafting time. So just pay attention to the little heads up notifications in your crafting window. But this will definitely give us a bonus here, the cupboard surface. Either way, let's go ahead and pick up the large wooden club. Now it's too big to fit in my pocket because we don't have very much in terms of pocket space. Maybe if we get a big hiking backpack, we could fit that in there, but for now we're just going to wield it, put it right in our hands. There it is. Resembles a plank, but it is a club. In fact, let's look at it. So inventory again, scroll over to the large wooden club, hit E to examine it, and it brings up a nice detailed list. And we can see the bash and plus is 0. So it's a balanced weapon, not much in the favorable sense, but it's got a decent bash to it. All right, so we've also got other information, techniques. There are actually sweep attacks we can use or brutal strike, which could proc. These will just proc automatically as you get better and better with it, but that's not bad. Now, let's talk about our stance. So there is this window by hitting the underscore button, we can see select a style. There are, in fact, a whole bunch of martial arts in the world, real world martial arts, such as Taekwondo, karate, and many, many more, which you'll find books for. Sometimes there are even NPCs who will be willing to train you and teach you that martial art. Once you get that learned, which we don't have, unfortunately, yet, but it will appear in this list here. And it will also be from this list, when you look at that martial art, you can further examine it to see what other kinds of moves it will have, such as sweeps and blocks and throws, and what kinds of weapons it's compatible with. But we currently don't have a style. What we want is to add a style to this called Brawling. It's not much of an improvement over no style, but it's like the most basic melee style. It will work with all different weapons, including this pretty primitive thing. Now, how do we reach that? If we can see, we aren't very good at melee. We're 0 with only 10% towards our next. So let's reopen the crafting menu here, and we're going to scroll backwards, hitting Shift and Tab, because the very last tab is Practice. There it is. And you can see there's a bunch of options, but what's in white is available to us. We scroll down to Melee here, and there's a whole list of things that are required. If you go down to these, you'll see like why we can't do these and what you'll need to practice. But let's go ahead and do this. And time is passing, so a little bit of time passed. Now we get the window. Your proficiency has increased. Stop practicing. I recommend that you always stop after a proficiency increase, because sometimes what will happen is you will no longer be qualified to keep gaining skill from that level of practicing. In other words, it will be too easy for you at that point to gain skill. So stop, check the menu again, and see if you've advanced or if it's just completely grayed out altogether. So we will stop practicing. We will go back, tab backwards. We can see that now the melee is grayed out. So if I had continued practicing at that point, it would have been wasted time and effort. So it's good that you stop each time. But let's go back and check with the underscore, and there it is. Brawling has now appeared in this list. So by just doing a quick, like what was it, less than an hour or so's worth of melee practice, we unlock the Brawling style. Now again, you're not going to be able to unlock other styles until you get like specific training manuals and stuff. So just practicing more of the melee, although it is recommended for you, it's not going to unlock new stuff, like I said, until you find specific items. So the search is on for the good martial arts. And I'll mention as a side note, there's a couple mods specifically related to martial arts too. But we are trying to pass time. It's not a bad idea maybe to practice some carving. Carving is going to raise our fabrication. Believe it or not, that's the primary skill. And let's do it. Time is passing. Pain is lessening, but very little. Unfortunately, we don't even have any Tylenol or aspirin. No, we want to stop. Okay, well, I'm sorry. I just realized, too, that I did not have on my little program, so I apologize for the first half of the video. Without that, I think I even referenced it, but I'm going to make sure to get that on for each video now in the future. And occasionally you'll see the pause button maybe pop up as I pause the recording from time to time, but regardless, the KeyViz program is linked down below, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you. Again, apologize for forgetting about that, but let's get back into our crafting and see if we can practice a bit more. Looks like carving is still available, so that's actually a nice thing. I think that we should, let's work on dodge actually. That could help us survive a bit better. And again, our goal is just to kind of kill some time here at the shelter while we wait for ourselves to heal a bit. And surprisingly, the healing factor in this game is pretty quick. Let's see, we'll stop practicing, yes. There are negative traits you can put on that will slow the healing rate, which is definitely more challenging. But I might also argue that it's a bit more realistic too, just because, let's take note that we were pretty badly injured, but after about a half a day of rigorous physical activity, practicing our dodge and melee, we're getting better, a little bit better. The pain factor still prevents us from leaving the shelter at this point. So let's go through crafting one more time since we're not really hungry. We're still hydrated. Everything's good. We're taking advantage of the natural light. We have a weapon, albeit fairly simple, That's covered. Can't do anything with food. Eventually, you'll see that the food you can craft in this game is extensive, a little bit overwhelming, the number of recipes, not just for food, but everything. Let's work on these two, tailoring and survival. We don't have much option to practice these, but by crafting, we can also raise it. So let's do a pair of sock mitts to raise survival. This will help us identify plants, and certain recipes open up in the game too as you boost your specific skills. Survival is really good for certain like primitive medicines and things like that. So now you can see, of course, the gloves are placed by the side. There they are, a pair of sock mitts. Let's check our survival too. And it is 6% towards the first level, so that wasn't very much, was it? But one thing we could be able to do, can we stand up there? Yeah, we'll climb on the table. I'm actually going to haul this back into the light because what I want to do is disassemble it. So I'm going to use the backslash button now. It's going to ask me, what do I want to haul? I'm just going to haul everything into the light and then stop hauling with the same command. And let's hit Shift plus B. Think of this as your butcher, but also item disassemble or cut up. So there's a difference too between cutting and disassembling an item. You'll get more of the finer parts and crafting materials from a disassembly. Typically takes longer as opposed to just cutting the item right up. It's a big factor when you're dealing with clothing too, essentially, as well. Now let's go ahead and disassemble the sock. Yes, please. Now it didn't take long, and the materials, we got the socks there. Let's do that again with the socks. Let's actually cut up the socks. No, hold on. Let's go back to crafting. Very good. And we'll check out the armor tab again. Pair of sock mitts. Let's recraft it. Okay, I want to check and see. Survival is at 13%. So if we just go back and forth doing this, disassembling the socks, then recrafting that item, I can pass a couple of hours and probably get us to survival 1. Let's flash forward and see how that works out. Success! We've done it. Check it out. We have reached survival level 1. And just as a quick side note, I realized I was able to craft here in the dark on top of the table as long as you're adjacent to a light tile. You can see it's important to note that for when you're crafting near fire, because sometimes you don't want your character to overheat directly adjacent to a burning fire. But just a side note there, like I said, the main goal was to level survival, and we did it. It's just after noon. It actually didn't take anywhere nearly as long as I thought. But take a look at the log. So if I hit Shift P, this is the first time we've seen it. This is basically an enlargement of the text area over here, but you can see just how many times, every time I recovered a pair of socks, that was me disassembling the item. And then of course I got the notification down here that our practical skill. Also, you'll notice it says at one point that it starts to become less effective. So yeah, let's go back to crafting. We'll tab over to armor and we'll take a look. The sock mitt is now, we're 1 of 0, meaning that our level is above the required level for this, and we're not going to get any probably skill increase from continuing to do this. And another thing you would note, if we had more resources around us, like more cloth and thread and needles, a lot more of these would suddenly open up as we reached a new level. But, well, that's actually somewhat true, because some of these will be gated under survival. You'll notice that too. Just because something's in the armor screen doesn't mean it's necessarily tailoring. Some things will be fabrication, survival, but either way, that is a success, people. Very, very nice. Unfortunately, I thought we might be able to venture outside in this episode, but falling down really set us back a bit. Although I think it did help maybe with some of the learning things. And take a look, our pain has reduced a little bit, even without painkillers. Time heals everything. So I think with a good night's sleep, we will be able to venture out in the morning, as long as we don't fall off any more ladders. But I'm going to turn save mode on just in anticipation of that. Right now, though, we've got a few more hours to kill. We'll do that with some practice. Maybe we can scrounge up some more materials to craft with here in the evac shelter. We'll have to explore the basement again, too. But we'll save all of that for the next episode, guys. I want to keep these relatively short, again, so I don't overwhelm the new players with too much info right off the bat. that, but I will be posting these videos often, probably as daily as I can get it, maybe every other day. So stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell. If they are helping you, please let me know down in the comments. And of course, if you got specific questions, leave them as well. I will try and answer those as best as I can. But I really appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will see you on the next one.